For our second day of weaving, we're going to tie on another string. I have here a different color than my first weft string. My second weft string is going to be white, my first one was red. So what I need to do is I need to line up the ends so they're right next to each other, matching perfectly. And we're going to tie an overhand knot to connect the strings. Just so it's easier for you to see the steps, I'm going to move this loom out of the background so you can really focus on the two strings that are getting tied together. The first thing I did is I've lined up the strings so they're matching each other, and now what I want to do is I want to make a loop either around one finger or two fingers, and then I'm going to put both strings through both loops. Just like that. Pushing it through. Once I have both strings through both loops, I'm going to pull really tight together. Then I like to make my knot extra tight by pulling on just the red string and just the white string. Of course, yours may be different colors, that's fine. And then pulling on the opposite pairs. So, pulling in every combination to make sure my knot is nice and tight. Now, what I need to do before I put my shuttle back on and start weaving again is I need to trim the ends of this knot. Now, this is a sort of logic problem. Well, I want to trim on this side of the knot or on this side of the knot. Think about it for a minute. I want to trim where these little two end pieces are, not where my long string is connected. So I'm going to trim just the tiny ends off. I'm going to hold my knot, protect the good string, and just clip so these little ends aren't really going to get in my way. It's okay if we have a little tiny fuzzy nub there. It'll get tucked under to the back anyway. We won't see it later on. Before we weave, I'm going to take my hand and find the other end of my long arm's length string, and I'm going to tie it onto the shuttle. So again, to put it on the shuttle, we can twist, fold, put it through, grab it, make an overhand knot, loop, put this through the end, and we're ready to keep weaving. When I finished weaving the other day, and I've pulled up my string here so you can see which way it was going, I finished with this red weft string going under the blue warp. So when I start, I'm going to start always next to the row that I just finished. So I'm over here on the left hand side of my loom, so I'm going to start on the left, but I want to do the opposite that it's doing right below it. So would I want to go under with the shuttle? No, I'd want to go over. And I'm going to go all of the way across. For a flat weaving, our shuttle is just going back and forth from one side to the other, but we're always doing the opposite thing vertically. Now that I've weaved it across, I'm going to pull it all the way through, and I'm going to keep on pulling until my knot ends up somewhere in the middle of this row, or maybe even if I have a long enough string it goes all the way through and it'll end up in the middle of the next row. Sometimes it'll get caught and you'll have to lift up the string to help it through. Okay, so this time it is starting to pull that tight. Remember, I don't want it to pull tight. I want it to be nice and straight. So if you do that, we have to take a little bit out, leave that little bubble of space in. There we go. That's the right size bubble, and then I'm going to compress it down. So our knot ended up right here. And again, this will be the back. The part that's right now touching bloom will be the front. We won't see the knot in the end. Now that I am on the right edge of the loom, I'm going to start from the right and go to the left. Since I ended with the white string going over, what does my shuttle start out doing? It starts out under. And then we're going to weave back and forth just like we did with the first string. When I get to the end, I'm going to pull it all the way through, but leave that little bubble of space. I can always put my finger down to help remind me. If it makes a knot, pause, untie it. We can be very careful and very intentional. This is a really meditative project. There we go, and I can compress it down and keep on going. If I ended under on the left, I'll start on the left but go over, etc., so on and so forth. I'm finished weaving with my white string. Now I'm ready to compress it before I tie on my next color and keep going. Remember, when I compress, I can just squish it down with my fingers. We always want to keep squishing it down so we can see how much we've actually gotten done, because the weaving wants to be nice and dense and compressed like this. Then I would take this string and tie it onto my next color, or if you want your section to be thicker, you could get the same color again. Remember, we always want to leave these little bubbles of space at the end here so it doesn't start to pinch in. We want to keep it the nice full width of the loom. Great progress, and we can keep weaving nicely.